What is your profession's most strange fact or secret? Story 1, disability insurance. We hire private investigators to videotape people and hunt around for them online all the damn time if they're suspected of fraud. I can't count the number of videos I've seen of people dancing at nightclubs and posting on Meetup, begging for a ex-country ski partner while they're claiming they're in too much pain to do their desk jobs and collecting fat disability checks. I have no pity either. People like that make it much harder for people with actual problems to get the benefits they require to get better, which is heartbreaking. Story 2, doctor here. We do not always have a way of figuring out what's wrong with you. There is no magic test that will prove beyond any doubt exactly what you have. Furthermore, diagnosis of disease is not reached by following an algorithm. This isn't math. Your body didn't read my textbook, and more often than not, there's not something I'm missing. In fact, every doctor I know orders way too damn many tests, just to be sure they don't miss anything. Dumb doctors are few and far between. Jerks are not, but don't confuse the two. It took over 100 years of medical science to establish certain diseases as distinct entities, and many are rare or have convoluted criteria that only a few patients actually fill. So be patient, realize that I'm human and cannot retain the entirety of medical knowledge within my brain, and know that I'm working hard to help you get better. And you will be the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. Story 3, money talks. Casino security. You play $20 per hand, maybe $1,000 between gambling and food and everything, and get in a fight in the hotel, you're probably going to jail. At the very least, you're being removed from the hotel. On the other hand, if you spend hours at our high stakes table, all other circumstances being equal, we will come to the room, tell you you're disturbing your neighbors, and please don't do that again. Same with basically anything that happens in a casino. We hate the people with money because they can get away with being the biggest jerks on the planet. But since their one weekend keeps the lights on in our casino for 6 months, we have to let them do as they wish, basically. Story 4. I have my degree in aerospace engineering and have done considerable work as an uneducated construction worker. The plans that the workers get are oftentimes impossible to construct. Pipes run through ducts or are accidentally planned to end in the ground doing nothing. Fire alarm pull stations are located inside walls or on ceilings. Field fixes wouldn't be quite so necessary if plans were polished a little more. Story 5. Consulting firms like Accenture and Deloitte hire people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing and throw them from task to task as if they're all interchangeable. The dude managing your $5 million data migration probably doesn't know how a database works, and the Indian programmers he's managing may have never seen your DBMS before. You pay $150 an hour for the manager and $50 an hour for the programmers. They make a fraction of that and deserve less. You could hire freelancers who would do the work quicker, cheaper, and better. But you don't, because then you wouldn't get to have a smiling sales executive take you out to dinner twice a week with your own money. Story 6, a museum tour guide and education interpreter. Doesn't translate very well from French here in Montreal. Due to a series of incidents in the late 1980s and early 1990s, our union successfully petitioned the government of Quebec to allow all museum staff working with the public in a non-security role to carry licensed firearms. I carry an older model Browning high-power 9mm and have had to draw my weapon 3 times in the last 8 months, though at only one time was I convinced I'd have to use it. Oh, and only once was it a theft issue. The other times we were being threatened. This is the reality for museum tour guides and, as far as I understand, university and college professors as well, though no one ever talks about it. Story 7. I've worked lots of jobs. Investment banker. We know exactly what the F we are doing. Yes, we knew the real estate bubble was going to blow, but everyone was playing chicken trying to be the last one that leaves before the collapse. And those complicated, convoluted derivatives that nobody understands are actually very simple and easy to understand when they are explained correctly. Tobacco industry. It's so profitable you would be stunned. Ever wondered how they paid the fines the US slapped them with without so much as a hiccup? Oh, and all the smuggled fakes. The original brand holder gets paid for that. Story 8. Bartender. Wide experience, from high-class cocktail lounges to upscale wedding receptions to sweaty, dirty dance clubs. I probably don't like you. Remember that time that you had to babysit your drunk friends? How drunk people are kind of fun to watch if you're sober for about 30 minutes and after that it's hours and hours of crap show. That's my life. Every day, well, weekends anyway. Babysitting 500 of you drunk friends. 2. There is no correlation between a person's status or age or gender or anything and A, how nice they are as a drunk, or B, how good of a tipper they are. I get a wrinkled dollar every day I open it from the homeless guy I give a glass of water to. That's a 100% tip every time. The big shot lawyer who runs up a 300 tab in a night buying drinks for college chicks. $20 if I'm lucky, you do the math. The worst drunks? Older clientele who think that, for some reason, their drunk crap doesn't stink. You're just as annoying as the 21-year-olds, except they don't give me this older, wiser, and holier than thou attitude when I cut them off. Story 9. Shaolin Kung Fu practitioner with an actual Shaolin monk as trainer and soon to be ordained warrior monk. Most of these aren't secret, but people don't get to know it either. A real Kung Fu master has a complete knowledge of combat mechanics and behavior, and there's basically nothing you can do to impress them. When you become a master, you can basically improvise anything in combat, and it will be awesome. You see forms and weird dances. You are thinking pretty much what slave owners thought of capoeira. Also, it's not enough to know the series. You have to know what each single move means. That's why people can't fight with it. People with 1 year of Deng Feng training, not for Lawais and foreigners, not necessarily in Shaolin, can break bones and do far better than the usual people you see giving seminars that cost 2K for 2 days of training. In 2 weeks, you can be jumping double mortals in the air and doing all sort of amazing stuff. The training is a living hell, although. Story 10. Surgical resident here. Many of the country's most illustrious hospitals are teaching hospitals. At these institutions, the interns are usually the first responders to an emergency, well, the first physician. As an intern, you have no idea how many times I looked up a condition or treatment in a book or online, while a patient is having an acute episode of something I should be taking care of right away. Beyond that, residents are still challenged with things they have no idea how to handle, but the patient is decompensating fast, so they do their best, while a nurse or someone calls the attending physician to bail him or her out. Story 11. Can you provide an example of the sort of situation you are referencing? You seem to be speaking from a very high horse. I've seen many things come out on paper that are downright impossible to physically construct. Construction workers straight out of high school does not give credit to the hardworking men who have been building things for decades and have amassed a wealth of knowledge about the practical application of all the lines you put on paper. You use ultrasonic testing for welds at connections, but why not use bolts? And then would you want the tension on each bolt tested? We typically test 10% of the bolts in a connection at random. If they all pass, the connection is good. If they don't, then further testing is required. I've got guys who have been welding for decades, and yet the inspector still has to test every single inch of every one of his welds. I'm curious to hear your stories about the disconnect between design engineers and the actual construction process. My whole career is based around bringing the two together. I do construction project management for a heavy construction contractor in New York City. I'm a civil engineer who decided I could never sit behind a desk all day. I also worked as a union carpenter for a year. Story 12. Dock worker. Building skids, handling airline baggage, handling your shipments. Your fragile stickers are useless. Your do not stack stickers are useless. Your this end up stickers, your high value item stickers, your do not tilt stickers, and that lock on your suitcase are all useless. They are there to give you a peace of mind. Oh, and we just started screening all of the things that go into passenger aircraft starting last year. And that screening process? Yep, you guessed it. Useless. If someone really wants to get a bomb on a plane and they're not an idiot, they're probably going to get it on there. Story 13. I've been a prisoner of war. I have been tortured, first in training, then in reality. The secret you will never know is everybody talks. Sooner or later, you will tell everything you know as often as possible, just to make the pain stop. First, you'll give away all your secrets, then you'll gladly say that eating babies is your favorite pastime. If they keep going after that, well, hell, you'll say anything they want. All pain training does is condition you to hold your secrets an hour longer, maybe a day, long enough for your knowledge to become useless. The movies lied to you about pain as if you didn't know. Every person, no matter how strong or how determined, will scream, cry, piss, and crap themselves eventually under torment. There's no Rambo, no Jason Bourne, no James Bond, none of that. And forget walking off a bullet in the shoulder or a knife raked across your chest. Someone good at their job can get you screaming for mercy without leaving so much as a scratch. Story 14. Television and film. Production. Nothing is what it appears or sounds to be. Nothing. We don't even screw up for real. We just do extra takes of us intentionally messing up in funny ways. Because it makes a better production environment if not everything we do is serious and, well, productive. I'm not even as jaded as I'm sure I come off whenever I speak about what I do. Layers of facade, infiltrating their way into the lives of the average people in the business. Story 15. Writer or director here. Actors are, by far, the most overrated and overpaid profession. None of them can act their way out of a paper bag. If you see dailies, they're just atrocious. If you look at the performances alone, $100 million film looks like a student film. There is only one reason why actors are so popular and command so much money. They're editors. You wouldn't believe how important a good editor is to a film or television performance. Far more important than the actor, yeah, him or herself. Story 16. The Geek Squad actually outsources for more or less 80% of their software work to some other country, no idea which one. They call the system Agent Johnny Utah from Point Break, and it can do anything they can do. So they turn it on, someone connects to the PC remotely, follows a script, fixes whatever needs to be fixed, and then the store calls you the next day. The remote connection usually happens overnight because the store and the AJU center are on different sides of the world. Story 17, Jewelry. Salesperson. Not really a secret, but yeah, there's something to the over and false valuation of diamonds. That being said, because of online retailers, my profit margins on loose diamonds aren't nearly as high as the other stuff I sell. Gold, for example. While my cost is climbing without mercy, I still operate with close to 60 to 80% margin, and that includes diamond rings. That 3 carat in my case, however, may retail for $28,000, but my cost is probably closer to $22,000 or $20,000. As a freestanding store, I pay almost $1 million a year in utilities and lot rent alone. That doesn't include payroll and an average of 2 commissions. My store carries an extremely trendy line of charm bracelets. While most of the charms are silver and run $30,000, my cost is roughly one-third of that price. And the cost to manufacture the charm is closer to $3 or $4. When someone offers to buy your used or broken gold jewelry, the price being offered is off of scrapping the piece. You will never sell a piece of jewelry for what you paid for it if you paid retail. I'd do an AMA if anyone was interested, but I'm pretty sure no one cares enough. I know I sure wouldn't. Story 18. Well, here's between me and 2 of my other friends, busboy and waiter at a restaurant. Cleaning your plates has zero effect on how fast and effective I can clean your table. Also, it works out to be somewhat racist. You can tell 99.5% of the time by their race what they want and how they want to be served. They will smile and like you more if you automatically know. Security guard at a theme park. The guard himself or herself has a tremendous amount of say on whether or not your conduct warrants kicking you out of the park or to simply leave you with a warning. Don't be stupid in dealing with them. You can also work as a security guard, despite a lack of education or experience, or even certification, and be paid to walk or stand around. Retailer at a paint store. Workers all dread the same word, brush out. It's where you grab a board, paint it with whatever stock color the customer wants, and dry it out, paint it again for a second coat, let it dry, and then hand it to the customer for free. Brushouts are painfully time-consuming and add up in costs to the store. Some customers abuse the ever-living crap out of this by demanding brushouts in every single color, in every shade of brightness, on a weekly basis, despite there being cards already painted with stock colors. They are essentially DDoSing a store in real life. Story 18. The sworn enemy of physical therapy is chiropractors. They do not fix you as a whole organic kinetic structure. They manually manipulate your skeleton without processing the musculature too. It's like adjusting the girders on a building without then adjusting the rest of the external components. The girders would be pulled out of place again, eventually. And sadly, you have to pay a chiropractor to maintain a pain-free stability. When physical therapists adjust bones, strengthen and stretch muscles properly, use pain writing modalities, and give you therapeutic exercise to fix what ails you. And everything they do for you, they teach you to do at home. Both holistic, PT's not a ripoff. Story 19, philosophy student. None of the famous dead people you've heard of are that important in contemporary philosophy. Despite what stoned undergrads think, you can't get away with vagueness and crap in real philosophy. Academically, it's a lot more similar to maths than English. Philosophy doesn't give you that many deep insights into living your life, but it does teach you to think a lot better and more clearly. Edit. Formatting. Also should emphasize, I'm not saying historical philosophers weren't good, just that philosophy is more about thought and analysis than historical knowledge and venerating the classics. Story 20. You can get tons and tons of free work on your car if you bring the mechanic a case of beer. Example, go in for an oil change and ask to talk to the tech working on your car. Have a case of beer in the back seat and tell him it's his as long as he does a really good job. At the very least, you will end up with a very, very thorough inspection. But my friends would usually change the brake fluid, rotate the tires, and do other little things that cost a lot for the customer, but the shop wouldn't notice if they were performed for free. Story 21. I feel like I'm too late, but Egyptology. The thing that constantly surprises people is that there is stuff left to find. Great finds are made every day in the field, museums, libraries, universities, etc. There's a crapload to do. To contextualize it, I assume many of you will know of this. The burial mask of Tutankhamun. It's one of the most famous artifacts in the world, and probably the second most valuable after the Mona Lisa. Anyways, the mask, like many other Egyptian things, hasn't been properly studied or published. No HD photographs, no 3D scans, no metallurgical analysis, no good typologies, etc. Just millions of crap coffee table books. Story 22. Magazine publishing. Nearly all of the magazines you read exist solely as a vehicle for advertising. Interesting content is produced so that people will subscribe to the magazine, and in turn be sold as an audience to potential advertisers. Your subscription price covers shipping and maybe printing costs, and that's it. Publishers cut such deep discounts on subscriptions because a larger circulation means a higher price and demand for advertising. The content is genuine, and many of the writers and editors are passionate about the subject matter. But if the book isn't at least 50% advertising, it's probably not doing well financially. Of course, there are exceptions, such as my favorite cooking magazine, Cooks Illustrated, which has no advertising or sponsorship, and is much more expensive as a result. Story 23. If you are concerned about the security of your credit card information and notice charges you don't recognize, do the following in this order. Talk to the people in your family to see if a misunderstanding occurred. Talk to the fraud department of your financial institution. 95% of every report of fraud I deal with is just a mistake. Most bank tellers know this, and usually ask you to talk to your family or the vendor to get everything sorted out. Vendors have very little power when it comes to matters of identity theft, because the FTC regulations are pretty strict. If you want everything to be sorted out quickly and are certain that you are genuinely a victim of identity theft, go right to the banks and make sure you talk to a member of their fraud department. Normal tellers have been known to brush you off, siding with the odds that you're just an idiot who can't keep track of your expenses. Story 24. I've got two since I've worked both as a commercial real estate broker and in real estate law. Real estate broker. Most brokers don't give a crap about their clients and are more focused on securing the next client than the one they are currently representing. They don't add any value to your transaction and often engage in ethically questionable practices. You are better off just engaging a real estate lawyer to protect you legally and then representing yourself, lawyers. All law is just a huge circle jerk of plagiarism. It's not unethical, but it's also not a difficult profession like we are led to believe. When a lawyer says they'll have to do some research, they really mean, let me get on LexisNexis, Law Google, and rip off someone else's work because I have no idea what to do with your case. The entire first year of law school is devoted to learning how to plagiarize the previous cases properly. I'm sure I'll get crap for referring to it as plagiarism, but that's what it is. It's just ethical plagiarism because that is how law works. Only long accepted arguments will prevail in 99 of cases. Story 25. Don't confuse electrical engineer with electrician. We are completely different, even though there are similar components to our jobs. When you check into your hotel room, always be nice to the front desk person. A simple, "How is your day going?" goes a long way. Folks who are on their cell phones, rude, or do something that pisses me off immediately would get the room next to the elevator in a high traffic area below water main pipes. As an added bonus, if my shift is over in 5 minutes or so, I will purposely program your keycard to not work, so you will have to come back to the front desk and change it while I'm going home. Also, stop by and say hi once in a while, and I will take care of you like a mama bird to her chicks. When I was an undergrad, I didn't feel super smart or intelligent. I just had a high work ethic, which people translate as genius. When I apply for fellowships or scholarships, I milk the minority cow till it dies, and then I keep milking it till it becomes a zombie. As a backup, I will use the academic cow till it dies or it becomes a zombie. Either way, I learned to manipulate the scholarship system at a very early age. Story 26. Touring rock guitarist. I would venture to guesstimate that 90% of big touring rock bands use tracks at a show. It's disgusting. I'm happy to be in one of the few remaining no tracks using rock bands touring. It sucks for us because people are so easily fooled. They just know that one band sounded huge, not realizing there's no orchestra on stage. That said, I have an idea. Wouldn't it be great to create a stamp or a seal of approval for live shows and records? The seal signifies that at the show, your ticket represents the only noise coming out of the PA is coming from a musician on stage. Or for a record, there's no autotune. There could be a whole batch of rules that a committee comes up with. Think of the cool people that could be on the committee. That is all. Story 27. Laboratory technician. We test your patient samples for anything and everything under the sun. When it comes down to it, if you're dying of some disease, it isn't the doctor who holds your life in their hands. It's us. If we mess up on a test, whether we realize it or not, all the doctor is doing is relaying that info or basing the treatment off of the results we give them. The more human interaction there is with the samples, the more chances there are for us to screw up and misdiagnose someone. Edit. Oh, and this is also the reason your test can take so long to get back to you. Or not at all. Tests fail quite often. Oh, and lastly, all we really see are numbers. Sure, we see names, but meh. Barcodes are all we care about. We are so underpaid and underappreciated. It's a wonder more people don't die from our lack of enthusiasm and overall not giving a crap.